Brooks, a chef of White Wolf Japanese. I'm not going to try, Doran. Is it patisserie? Patisserie.
Yes.
Patisserie.
Oh.
Okay, I know rotisserie.
Yep.
What is patisserie? What does that mean?
So patisserie is the French word for pastry shop.
Pastry.
Yes.
A pastry shop, patisserie.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
and you guys have been doing this in Clawson.
Yes.
Now, you brought the box with you. Hold that up for the camera there. Show everybody this one.
There.
So my mic goes flying. That's the White Wolf
That's
box.
beautiful.
That's
Should I open it?
crazy. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
let's open it.
Let's open it. So
Whoa.
whitewolfbakery.com is the website, and I see it opens this spring. What
Yes.
day are you guys opening?
So we're scheduled to open Mother's Day.
Oh, that's a good time.
Yeah,
that
which
makes
is May
sense.
12th. So
Okay.
I have this here.
Look at the box. You guys hopefully say hi to everybody there. And what do we have
Open
here?
this up. And then we have all our little French macarons here.
Can you guys see them right there?
Oh,
The
my goodness.
macaroons. Are you kidding me?
They're so beautiful.
I see the green ones. I was assuming was pistachio, right?
No, these are actually matcha with a azuki paste, which is a red bean paste. We
Right.
have almond, lavender,
I love
chocolate,
azuki paste. That's one of
and,
my favorite anime shows.
raspberry.
All those. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
So those are treats for you guys later.
You don't want those, Aaron.
Well,
Yes, I do.
no, you don't want those.
Now, I'm assuming you went to culinary school,
yes, I did.
and then did you just focus on pastries after that?
So I went to culinary school in Australia in the countryside there.
Uh-huh.
And then I worked as like a chef for a while. And then I had an opportunity actually to kind of verge into the pastry world, which is kind of an interesting story. And that kind of, led me into the career that I have now.
So the pastry world, like I love watching like some of the stuff. Ryan, our producer, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch this yet, Aaron. There's so many shows. The Final Table on Netflix, where they
Yes.
have those chefs, the way they cook and stuff, and you see like different people with pastries. The same culinary creativity that we're seeing around the world now, like this renaissance,
Yes.
even here in the Motor City with different restaurants and stuff. Are we seeing that now on the pastry side where, like, look at what you did? I mean, the presentation and everything else. Are we reinventing more traditional recipes?
I think what's happening in the pastry world, especially, is there was this trend of like really etiquette, like high-end pastry chefs, kind of
Right.
died off for a little bit. But people got really tired of like this generic, just kind of the American style, like Safeway or Kroger style cakes and things like that. And there's this strong like trend to bring that all back now.
Do you guys always think about, I mean, when we talk about pastries, like you said, for the Costco cake, it's not a knock because the Costco cakes are awesome.
No,
and
they're
stuff.
good.
Yeah.
They're not that bad.
But we get into quantity versus quality. So something like that you guys would do at White Wolf, is it a denser type dessert or is it more along the lines of just the flavor? Like we talk
think
about flavor profiles and stuff.
The flavor is much more intense. I think the quality of ingredients is the major factor in it. Is instead of using like just tons of sugar and lots of fillers and things like this, you're sourcing more locally sustainable ingredients and products, and you're spending a little bit more time putting it together. It's also like a skilled portion of it, like a technique that you have to get into to make things work. Like a generic cake is something that most people can do at home, like a box mix cake type of thing.
Right.
And it's not that that's bad. Like those things work great if you're in a pinch. But to do things like this or to do other types of fancy desserts, it takes a little bit of skill and training. And so to get it where it needs to be.
Let's be honest, the French do the best tarts and different desserts and breads. And when I lived overseas, there was a place that we would go to often just for macaroons and
Yes.
tiramisu and fresh bread and fruit tarts. Fruit tarts were like the end-all be-all of desserts.
Yes. No, I mean, the French do an amazing job with their pastries. I think it's like the core of a lot of the pastry world today. If you look at all the different things that are in the food world, the base is French technique in reality.
Well, who was I talking to? Oh, James Regatta was talking about this. I asked him a question once that I was told by somebody and a couple different people that when you watch Ratatouille, someone said that is the most accurate representation of a kitchen, that they really did research on all the different stations. Did you find that to be true?
Yes, I did.
Seriously? And
Yeah.
because I mentioned this because you worked at Pixar for a while.
I did, yes.
So they really had that level. So when I'm seeing the different stations and the preparation and stuff like that, that's accurate?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of effort that they put into that was definitely how real kitchens are, I would say. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't think so. You'd think a cartoon wouldn't put that much effort into it, but It's a beautiful representation of it. I think not only the pastry world but the kitchens in general, it's kind of this like secret thing that most people don't know about. And
Right.
growing up in it and being in it my whole life, like I'm used to it, and it's kind of just the norm of that world. But most people don't have like an insight into what it is, and I forget that sometimes that most people have never been into a kitchen, much less worked in a kitchen professionally, and it's a really intimate, really special, really like tight knit place. It's like your coworkers are your family. They really, really are. They're closer to them. You work with them more than anyone else. That even more than your family.
This is Dorian Brooks, excuse me, by the way, in studio. White Wolf Bakery opening this spring. You said Mother's Day.
Yes.
14 Mile in Clawson.
Mm-hmm.
Brought in some of the macaroons.
Yes.
Not the macarenas. That's a totally
No,
different
no,
one.
that's a
Macaroons.
little
When you
bit
prepare them
different.
like this. And
A
do
little
that,
bit
and
different.
then,
Now,
what-
for somebody that hasn't been into like a real bakery, I'm talking like a real
Yeah.
French-inspired bakery.
Yeah.
You always have like your display cases with all of your different desserts or something. What would you show them first in the display cases if they came in and said, I don't know much about this. This looks nice. This looks nice. If you were to introduce someone to a high-end pastry,
Mm-hmm.
which one would you probably give them to taste?
That's a great question. I think that's a little bit of a challenge. What I like doing is taking food, like especially pastries, and kind of challenging people a little bit. So kind of introducing new flavors or new things through something or venue that's a little bit more familiar, like an unfamiliar flavor through something like cheesecake.
right.
I would say honestly, I mean it's a little kind of cliche, but I would say a French macaroon is probably a great segue into like a high-end pastry. It's something very approachable. Everyone kind of knows what it is a little bit. A lot of people have tried them. A lot of people haven't tried them, but everyone kind of knows what they are. So I think it's a great segue into like a little bit higher-end pastry.
Are the macaroons like? I mean, is there a history behind them? How long? I mean, how long have they? Obviously, like you said, French inspired, but how far back does this dessert go, or this?
That's a great question. To be honest, I'm not sure how far back the history does go, but it is a very, very traditional cookie. I mean, this is one of those recipes that doesn't use any leavening agents. Like you don't use baking powder or baking soda. Like
Oh,
a
you
lot
don't?
Of, No,
Okay.
no. Like a lot of American cakes, like you have to use these leavening agent, which are modern chemicals that have been developed to kind of ease baking. So with these types of things, you actually have to take egg whites and you whip them in like a mixer or by hand even
Okay.
until they turn into a meringue, and then you fold that with almond flour, with powdered sugar, some other things, and that's how you get that texture. So a lot of French pastry is actually by hand. You're adding in that air, that leaven.
So you always talk about like you don't have to talk about this for Aaron. That's like to me like when you're cooking,
Mhm.
it's an art. You can add things and you can modify a recipe a little bit. For me with baking, it's a science. You get it right, or if
Yeah.
I can't help myself if I try to bake something at home,
Mm-hmm.
I'm the person who will add a little bit more or a little bit less because I think,
Yep.
and then it never comes out right.
Yeah.
I can't bake. I mean, I'm just in what you're doing right now. It just blows. I don't know how you are, Aaron,
Give
but
him
it
a
blows me away.
smoker, and he is the
Oh, yeah,
king
yeah.
of
I'm all over that.
Waterford.
That's
Baking,
awesome.
forget it.
Yeah.
And what you guys do, it's science, but it's also art for you to create these
Yeah.
things in the first place.
Well, I mean, I think there's a lot of like you have to spend some time into actually develop these recipes is where the real challenge comes in. Is like you have to take a base recipe or even start from scratch. Is like I kind of know how much sugar and flour with like this much egg will kind of work this way, and let's try it there. And then you have to write that down, and then you say like, oh, that didn't quite come out. Let's change the sugar a little bit, try it again and taste it, and then change the flour a little bit, try it again, taste it, change the fruit a little bit, and try it again and taste it. And you have to keep doing that. Then once you get it, then you have that base recipe, and then you can start putting things together like different components. Like the French macaroon is like 2 almond cookie shells with like a filling inside, or like a cake is the layers of the cake, and then you have like your buttercream filling or your fruit filling, and then your frosting on the outside. So it really means like you have to figure out these core recipes, and then you pull them all together to get that flavor and texture combination.
Now, we've been focusing on the French aspect of
Yeah.
what you're doing because we all know French pastries, but this is a Japanese patisserie.
Yes.
So where does the Japanese infusion come in, and what gave you the inspiration to even incorporate Japanese flavors into your creation?
That's a great question. So, what a lot of people don't know is that Japanese pastries at their core are actually French. So a lot of the recipes for the chiffon cake, like one traditional recipe is strawberry shortcake. The base for that is actually French in technique and French in origin. Japan opened its borders to a lot of other countries in the 1400s, and they had been historically closed. Like they would not let anyone else into their country for generations. So eventually they decided well, let's open our borders, and people started bringing all these different things over to Japan that they had never had before. So things like bread, and like they didn't even have wheat or yeast before, so they couldn't actually do any. They had no idea what bread was. Yeah, bread.
Wow.
The Japanese word for bread, which is pan, actually comes from the Portuguese word for bread, which is pau, and that's when bread was introduced to Japan, was through the Portuguese. So that's a little history of like that. But to kind of bring this Japanese aspect is what we're trying to do is take a lot of that traditional French technique, and in Japanese culture, what they do is they like to take things and improve upon them, take things that are already excellent and make them a little bit better. The Japanese aspect is definitely simplifying, not a lot of sugar.
Right.
Japan has this attitude is like, raw fish for sushi.
Right.
And the most authentic form is called sashimi, which is just raw fish on a plate.
That's on this weekend, as a matter of
rice.
fact.
Yeah. It's great. And so if you can take that mindset, that attitude is like, let's take the most purity of an ingredient and highlight that. That's what we're trying to do at White Wolf.
So, like for the example, the organic vanilla. So you get that from a beaver's butt,
Stop
like we were talking
it.
about yesterday.
I did listen to that. And no, we don't.
No.
So that's the one thing of the show he listens to is our beaver butt
And that's
conversation.
the one thing you go back to.
Because it's the most. It is organic. It's natural.
I can't argue with you there.
Are you going to offer anything at White Wolf? Maybe white beaver.
No.
You call it Doran Brooks' very white beaver butt.
If you
baked
want to
goods.
come in and try it and see if people will buy it, then that's all on you.
No one's gonna buy
Are
that.
you going to have anyone? Who do you hire to get the gland? No one? Is there
Jim,
like is it an
really?
intern thing? Is
Really?
it like if you're a dishwasher, or you got to go?
I think
milk beavers?
it'll either have to be like an intern thing or a really highly paid person.
Exactly.
It's going to be
I'm
one
going
way or
towards
the
the
other.
ladder. Yeah.
Oh.
Job description. Yeah, you make 80 grand a year, but you have to go get these from a beaver.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm out. No, man. No, we don't. That's not
No.
Aaron. You sure? Okay, fine.
Now, is there anything at White Wolf that's going to be signature for you guys that you won't be able to find anywhere else around Detroit and surrounding areas, like a special bread or a special cake or something that you guys do that is exclusive to you?
So my tiramisu recipe that I do has been something that I brought with me to the last couple places I've worked, and it is, in my opinion, absolutely phenomenal. Something really special. We do there's about 12 different layers inside of it, all these different components, crunchy and soft and sweet and a little bit bitter. It's really, really beautiful. And going around Metro Detroit, the food scene is great, but there's not a lot of that level of pastry. Honestly, that's why I moved here. I'm actually from California to open this project, and because I want to bring a different level of pastry to the Metro Detroit area. I think it deserves it, but it's not really
Agree.
available right now.
No, it isn't. We have punchkis, which is tradition.
Great.
It's tradition. It's
Yes.
not. They're delicious and they're wonderful, and they're part of our history and culture. But you're right. We don't have that high end. Oh my gosh, yeah.
You're opening on Mother's Day, right?
Yep.
So when I open up Big Jim's Beaver Butt Bakery, as long as I beat you by Mother's Day, then I've got you covered, right?
Yeah.
We're only
yeah.
going to do baked goods from Beaver Butt.
From
That's our
Beaver
whole
Butt.
thing.
Okay,
I
that's fine with me.
anticipate the line for your patisserie is going to be around the block. I
Right.
tell you.
Yeah. It'll be in Waterford. It's by the old Kmart, but
Okay.
you can just drive around the back.
Are you
I'll be
taking
right
the
there.
old Kmart building? Or?
Yeah, no, just the behind.
You'll
it.
need
You
that
can-
much space,
We can
though.
park there and they won't find me. Yeah, I've got a van. It'll be fine.
For all those beavers.
Yeah. The Beaver Butt Bakery will be
There
good.
you go.
Okay, and then again, I want to ask you one thing.
Yes.
I'm like only 10 years behind. I finally sat down and read Kitchen Confidential, Anthony Bourdain's book.
Oh yeah.
How accurate was that?
Very.
Seriously.
That is. I was actually going to mention this before when I was talking about Ratatouille, but that is the most authentic, true to kitchen description possible.
Okay.
They-
The way he talks about bakers in particular, and the whole like your starter and stuff like that. It wasn't that he didn't speak highly of bakers, but he said you guys are a weird group of people. Remember,
We are.
Okay,
We
is
are.
that true?
No, we are. Yeah,
No.
definitely. I mean, if you ask a pastry chef, they'll say the cooks are weird. If you ask a chef, they'll say the pastry chefs are weird. And then if you ask the kitchen, they'll say the front of house is weird.
Okay, so it's all who you know.
But no, my brother John is a pastry chef.
Yep.
And he's quirky.
Yeah.
He's very, very quirky, and I think that's one of the traits that makes him so good at what he does.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be a little bit weird and a little bit different to like, sit behind a table and to make the same recipe 100 different times with just changing 10 grams of sugar each time to
Right.
get it just right. Like you go a little senile, like technically. But
Well, that's always Bourdain talks about that
Yeah.
in the book a lot. Is saying like the thing that we come to White Wolf because we want that tiramisu, we want macaroon. That's what we want. And then in the back of your mind, you're going like, well, I want to change it a little bit. And we're like,
Yeah.
no, I want that.
yeah.
So it's you're wrestling with yourself, right? I mean, the creativity and knowing you have something that people want. How do you keep delivering the same thing every day?
You're always wrestling with yourself. Like my mind is like I'm never fully happy with anything that I do. Like I'm always like people love it and I get a lot of review, but at the same time it's I'm never quite satisfied with it. There's always like something else you can do to make it just a little bit better. And that's kind of the fight that you have with yourself is you kind of have to just accept that, at a certain point it's where it needs to be. And each time you do it, you can improve upon it, make it a little bit better. But ultimately with pastry especially, and I think chefs also, well, I cooked for a long time as well, is the reward for all of that hard work and for all that senile kind of in your head thing that you go through is the reaction that you get from people when they get to eat your food is like you're giving people an experience that they've never had before.
Cool.
And to be able to provide that for someone, to be able to tell someone is like, look, I did this for you. Like no one else in the world has been able to do this thing for you is like that's incredible. That's why you can work for 16 hours a day, 7 days a week and just, almost go like half dead because you can't stand up anymore.
Duran Brooks, White Wolf Bakery, the patisserie, did I say it right there?
Patisserie.
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 Yes.
Patisserie.
Yes.
You guys are open up on Mother's Day, 14 Mile in Clawson.
Yes.
And now, so we can ping back and forth between you and Noble, right? Since you guys are the
Yeah,
same.
yeah.
I
So
was just telling Aaron about Noble. Oh.
yeah, so Noble Fish is a sister company, and we're basically right next door. Flipside Records is just between us, but we're on the same side of the street.
Nice.
Pretty much right there. So,
Okay.
and Noble Fish is actually going through an expansion. If
There.
people didn't know, so they're increasing their seating quite substantially, actually.
Mother's Day is what date?
May 12th.
So are you doing any pre-orders?
We actually have a test kitchen in Novi, Michigan, where we're doing recipe testing and development and things like that right now. But we actually can take orders for cakes and these macaroons and other treats. So if you have any requests or anything, like, yeah,
I have a
we can do
request.
it all. Yes.
Can I come to your test kitchen and be an official test taster? Just sit there all day and
It's similar to like Winnie the Pooh when he finds all the honey pots. Aaron will be just laying there on the floor after a while, right? Just
pretty
like
much.
feed it to me.
Macaroon crumbs all over my face.
You have to do me a favor in the midst of all these beautiful things you guys do with White Wolf.
Yes.
Take one of the Oreo Most Stuffs and stick it in there just to see if anybody catches it.
There you go.
These amazing things all of a sudden, like, come on, you have to have one junk food crunchy thing like
Okay,
Zingers
so-
or something. What's your guilty pleasure?
So one thing my guilty pleasure is I will devour a bag of gummy bears like there's no tomorrow.
Sugar-free
That's-
or regular? Because
No,
if it's
I
sugar
didn't. No. We're not having that. I've read all of the Amazon reviews.
Okay,
Oh
good.
God, yeah.
We're
That's
just making
sugar-free.
sure that you don't go towards those sugar-free Haribo bears because they're
No.
bad news.
Yes.
So gummy
definitely.
bears is your that's your
That's my like dirty secret treat that I like. I'll eat a whole bag of gummy bears and then I'll follow it with a bag of Skittles.
oh there you go.
Yeah.
Actually,
Actually,
sounds good.
you know what? Talking about junk food, at Pixar, one of the most popular things I did, which always frustrated me, but everyone liked it, was I used to do a chocolate cupcake with a beautiful like vanilla buttercream.
Yeah.
I used to chop up Oreos and roll the whole top of it and crush up Oreos, and people would go bonkers over it.
Now,
Just a cupcake
okay.
covered in Oreos.
So my last question for you is it? Do you get mad when we? My thing is, I take the cupcake, cut it in half, and flip it to make a big sandwich out of it, and eat it that way.
No, that's the whole point. You do whatever you want with a cupcake.
Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
A cupcake is the most versatile pastry, I feel like.
We should put the video up. Did you see Bill Walton over the weekend? He was doing an NBA game. They had two cupcakes with candles on them. And
I
if
didn't
you know
see that.
Bill Walton, the NBA player, tends to smoke a lot of weed, like, I don't know, entire forests.
Yeah.
So the candles were lit. They had one candle on each one while they're live on TV, and happy birthday to one of the guys. Well, you should eat it, Bill. And he goes, okay. And he stuck the whole thing with the candle in his mouth.
Oh, no way.
Candle first.
Oh, wow.
Stuck it in his mouth.
Okay.
Yeah.
It
That's
didn't
a little...
even phase him either.
No, it's Bill Walton. Yeah, again, the cupcakes were baked for 45 minutes. He's been baked for 45 years. So it was a little different there, man.
Do you think he realized that he stuck the candle in his mouth?
No, you watch. I swear to God, I'm telling you, Doran, he had no idea. He had none, man.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's so cool that you're going to be here in Clawson and
Yeah.
that you worked at Pixar. John
Yep.
Lasseter is the nicest guy. We ran into him during the auto show. He'd come here during cars.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
and
yeah.
record sound
yeah.
of the cars. People don't realize during the auto show and Autorama, he was here with a microphone, sticking a microphone, and we're like, don't you have people? And he's like, he's the only dude who comes to the auto show in January wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah. Oh, and at Pixar, that's the only thing he would wear, just a Hawaiian shirt, like, all the time.
Oh, seriously?
He's the most, like kind of out there guy, but the nicest person in the world, just like a genuine human being.
Can you confirm that for Toy Story 4 that Woody's going to be tatted up like Maroon 5's Adam Levine with like Buzz Lightyear across the
I
stomach
have
or anything?
no idea.
Okay,
I wish
just
I knew,
checking.
but I don't.
Just checking. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah,
Thanks for the
it's a
goodies here,
pleasure.
White Wolf again. Thanks everybody watching on Facebook, man. What's the website again, Aaron?
It is whitewolfbakery.com. They're taking pre-orders for Mother's Day, and it's going to be at 14 Mile Road in Clawson, opening on Mother's Day.
Okay,
Yes.
you're awesome. Thanks so much for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.